I'll say a big welcome this evening to our first Highlights Foundation Gather of 2021. I'm Allison Green Myers. I'm the program director of the Highlights Foundation, and I am joining you tonight from snowy northeastern Pennsylvania on the traditional and contemporary lands of the Lenape Nation. We've gathered together this evening to talk about the mission of the Highlights Foundation, which is to amplify the voices of storytellers who inform, educate, and inspire children to become their best selves. Here, we believe in the potential of story and storyteller to empower our future, to change, to embrace for the world and for the better. Before I introduce our panelists this evening, just a little tech talk. What would a Zoom night be without it? This is a webinar and not a meeting, so we cannot see your faces this evening. We cannot hear your remarks, but we can read your comments in the chat, and we can read your questions in the Q&A function. So of course, with that, we would say in both areas, both the chat and the Q&A feature, please respect our policy of no hate, no harm, and no harassment of any kind. Tonight's session, as with all of our programs, is a place to gather, listen, learn, and engage respectfully. On the call with us tonight, we have our newly engaged online program manager, Alex Villasante. For those of you who don't know, Alex is an award-winning author. She is an artist, and she is a champion of stories and storytellers. Alex is a founding member of the Las Musas group, who, in addition to amplifying Latinx stories and storytellers, launched the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival in 2020, which was and will continue to be a celebration of kids, of readers, and Latinx stories. We are so grateful to have Alex's expertise and energy join us here at the Highlights Foundation. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you so much, Allison. I'm still tired from that festival, but it was so amazing to bring all those Latinx voices together. I just want to say that I am not a founding member of Las Musas, but I am a founding member of the festival. But I did want to just tell everyone how just thrilled I am to be part of the Highlights family. I have been to Highlights Foundation as an attendee, an aspiring writer right before I got my, I don't know if Sarah's going to remember this, but right before I got my first book contract, I was signed up to be on a course with Sarah. And then I got my contract and kind of panicked and called her. And I was like, I have deadline revisions. And she was so wonderful and so giving and said, there'll be time. She said, go, go. So as an aspiring author, as a faculty member, and now as part of the team, I just could not be happier to be here.
Well, great. We're so happy to have you. In addition to Alex tonight, we have our panelist, Sarah Aronson.
Oh, sorry, I put that poll right in front of me.
Right there, George. Sorry, friends. I'm going to move that along there. We have our panelists, Sarah Aronson and George Brown. Sarah, of course, is the reason for our monthly gathers. She is a celebrated writer and gifted teacher. Anyone who has taken a course with Sarah knows that her ability to nurture shows no bounds. She will host 6 gathers for us this year. We're so appreciative of that. She'll be on faculty with us at just a number of Highlights Foundation courses. And of course, Sarah will continue to put great stories out into the world too. I don't usually get to do this, but tonight I also get to introduce George Brown, our executive director here at the Highlights Foundation. Through George's commitment to providing children with the very best books, he builds bridges between creativity and community, between dreams and action, and between all of us and our future readers. This is exciting. Tonight we'll hear from George and Sarah about amplifying voices of storytellers, connecting our writer and illustrator communities, and much more. So with that, I will turn it over to the two of you. Welcome to Gather 2021.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited.
All right, Sarah, here we are.
I know, another year. And it's so nice to see so many friendly faces, so many names we recognize, and so many new names of people who may not have had a chance yet to visit us virtually or in person.
Well, according to our poll, half of the people here are here for their first time. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for being a part of this.
You are in a safe place, in an inspiring place, and in a supportive community.
Well, and that's really how it all started, Sarah. I was thinking back to about a year ago this time when we had a great set of plans for all of our on-campus workshops and the great season we were going to have. And then, as we know, everything changed very quickly. You came to us early on and said, I want to do something. Let's have some online gatherings just to get together and celebrate with community. And that was really what started the whole piece for us.
My autobiography is going to be called Extrovert in Exile. I was very nervous because I know how important conversation and community are to my creative process and to the process of so many writers I know. And even though at first I had no idea how long this would last, I knew that I needed a way and that I wanted to facilitate a way for us to have conversations about creativity during these uncertain times.
And I think like some of those early conversations, Shadra Strickland reached out, Pat Cummins reached out, Lori Kalkoven hosted meditations. There was just kind of this coming together of community, and we had faculty volunteering to be guests on the Gather sessions. And you can see like in the chats, how important it was to have those communities, just to have a gathering, to come together, because we were all in such a stage of just trying to figure out what a pandemic was, what it was like to be at home all of a sudden, what it was like to see people dying unexpectedly, and all these pieces that really helped us feel like there was a way to connect to that Kidlit community. And that part was really, really great for
creativity is such a fragile state. It is so subjective, and fear is so present for all of us. And here we had something real to fear. And I knew that, and I think everyone who volunteered knew that we needed to bring our best selves together and to come together, help each other, lift each other, and see what would happen next. And what happened is we figured out that we know how to make community even when we can't be together.
Yeah, and I think that was really a big thing. We talk a lot about the Highlights Foundation experience, and I had wrapped my head around that you had to be on our campus because you had to feel that nurturing environment. You had to eat the food, you had to share the meal. And what
eating the food is really important.
But we discovered that you can build community online, and we were in a spot where we could do that piece of it. And so it does work. online when we're all following that same mission. Allison talked about our mission. You know, we are positively impacting children by amplifying the voices of storytellers. And so at the Highlights Foundation, all of our programming is really about the storytellers. We're teaching the craft, we're talking to storytellers. But I think everyone that comes to story for children and young adults is thinking about the reader. You know, Linda Sue Park, I remember she was giving a talk one time and she said, it's really not about you, the writer, it's about the reader. And I think as part of that, what we do for children and writing and illustrating for children is really thinking about the reader and how the reader will interpret that text.
I often remember Laurie Halse Anderson saying to me, we're not just writing books, we're not just writing stories, we're changing the world. We're introducing the next generation to the problems and triumphs and excitement that they can look forward to. And that, putting it that way, gives me gusto. So let's talk about 2021 and what we're looking forward to.
Yeah, sure, great. So a couple of things. One is online courses and lots of online courses. We've already launched some of our online courses, and I think we're so glad we have Alex who's joined the team so that we can manage to add more courses. But we'll be running, I think, close to 50 courses online this year. And Allison, as the program director, puts a lot of thought and care into each program. So she has to look at it holistically and figure out, how do we create a program to meet all genres and topics, look at different kind of formats and price points, and also how do we meet different levels of where an author and illustrator might be on their publishing journey. And so there's that holistic view of how do you put together the whole program season, but then it's like each individual program and what makes each program kind of unique. And I think about, Sarah, can you talk a little bit, because you just launched Getting to Know Your Character. You're about to launch Getting to Know Your Novel in a couple of weeks. And then you'll be on campus this summer for the whole novel workshop. And one could say, well, they're all for novelists, but they're all different prices, different time frames. So a little bit about those.
So as a writer, as a student, as a faculty member, I look at some parameters for what course is right for me at different times of the process. All of my classes are a combination of 3 I's. We talk about inspiration, getting ideas, how to organize those ideas into chapters, into characters, into problems, into dialogue. We have intuition. What do we do with that stuff? And that kind of process is spontaneous and exciting and creative. But eventually we need logic or intention. So when I look at the different kinds of classes, I look at where I am in the process. I also think, what do I need to know? Do I want to hear theory of the craft? Do I want to hear lectures? Do I want to be inspired by someone else's journey? Do I want writing exercises that help me figure out what I'm writing about? Or do I want feedback? Feedback is such an important part of the process of learning what your novel is, what your picture book, what your nonfiction project is doing, and how a first reader is experiencing it and how they're anticipating the pages. So those kinds of things are offered in different levels and different amounts in different classes. And where, depending on where you are as a writer, different things will be important at different times.
Well, and on our website, we have a handy filter system. So you can go and check out our workshops. And if you know what genre you're interested in, whether it's online or an in-person course, you can use those filters to try to kind of figure out which of these courses is right for me. And we also have our ambassador program where you can actually talk to somebody who knows the breadth of our programs that can help you kind of think about which program is right for you when. Because I think one of the things we think about, Sarah, is writing and illustrating are never done. And it's this long process. So what is your writing journey? What is your illustration journey? And it's not just what do I want to take this week or this month, but what am I going to do to work on my craft over the course of the next couple of years, pull that together.
For me, taking classes has been not just a journey of writing a book, but a journey of understanding my process and understanding how story comes to me. Or maybe it's more fair to say how that particular story arrives. So I think as experienced writers, these conversations are important too. They're not just important for new writers, they're important for writers and illustrators of all levels, because we are all fortified by the conversations that happen when you get a group of creative people in one space and you let them talk.
Right. Which is what our chat is working as this evening.
Yes.
So it was kind of neat. Allison said you're going to host 6 of these gather sessions this year, and she sent a list, and we have all of our gather sessions planned out. And it's funny because like when we were confronted with this last spring, we were going like day by day, week by week. And so now it's nice to have a little bit of our planning a little further out. Next month in our HF Gather session, we'll be featuring and talking about our partnership with the Brown Bookshelf. So we'll first be celebrating the Brown Bookshelf program 28 days later, which each day in February, they'll be celebrating a Black author or illustrator. And we'll be posting that also on our social media for everyone to be able to follow. But we are launching a year-long online program with the Brown Bookshelf called Amplify Black Stories. And it'll have 2 tracks, one for publishing professionals and one for Black creators to come together and continue to uplift and build and make progress in the industry towards better racial equality.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for uplifting diverse voices. I have learned so much this year about cultural bias, about what I need to do to be more inclusive, that these challenging conversations in a safe place make us all better writers and all better citizens of the world.
Yeah, and I think we're committed to becoming an anti-racist organization and doing the work that it takes. And it's an ongoing process and a learning process. And we continue to learn and to just see where we can participate. We have our Essential Conversations series, and we have a number of programs happening this year. Our Jewish Symposium, backed by popular demand, is launching in March. That will be online. We have a Writing the Rainbow LGBTQIA+ themed picture book workshop happening this summer. And Alex will be launching the Latinx Symposium in the fall. As well, our Diversity Fellowship, which we've been stewarding for the last 3 years. We're hoping that we get back to campus to have our final celebration with the Diversity Fellows this fall. So in addition to our specific craft-based programs, we are adding on our essential conversations that actually are trying to take a look at the underrepresentation in the industry and really try to tackle head on some of the issues around race and inequities in KidLit.
And you're making an impact. Those essential conversations that are happening in every class are becoming more in depth and more open and more insightful every class I teach. People are getting the message, and people are feeling more comfortable expressing their hopes and their fears and their goals, which is really exciting.
And Ren, I see she's asking any Asian Pacific Islander / Indigenous programming. Yes, coming soon. We are working on a couple of programs, both for Indigenous writers and for Asian Pacific writers. So stay tuned.
That's great. So can we switch to campus?
Oh yeah, I love campus.
Let's talk campus.
I was there all by myself on Friday afternoon, and I had the best spot in the loft, and it's got this big window, and it overlooks the Word Garden, and it was just covered in a little sprinkle of snow, and it was beautiful, but it was very quiet and lonely. So we're very much looking forward to getting back to campus and to doing it safely. We did last summer, we were able to host some unworkshop weekends, some personal retreats, and we're looking at springtime being able to offer more of the retreats. And those, it works on our campus pretty well for safety and social distancing. The cabins are spread out, everybody has their own private room. Dan and Amanda have worked hard to transition the meal service, so you can have takeout meals, or you can sit out on the patio, or even in the main hall. The tables are spread out, and we've got these plexiglass dividers. So we're looking forward to trying to get back to personal retreats, small groups, individuals, bring a friend, and those pieces. I know, Sarah, you came all the way from Chicago last year.
I drove 13 hours, and I don't like to drive, but it was worth it. And I felt very comfortable. I felt it was wonderful to stay in a cabin, to have that combination of solitude as well as company at meals. The meals were organized in such a safe way, although it's hard to overeat when your portion is given to you ahead of time. So that's a plus or a minus. It was really wonderful. And every time I come to Highlights for a personal retreat, I usually come with a project, either that I want to finish, and I try to come with a friend who will inspire me to keep going and to keep me on track. Taking a walk around the Highlights Foundation is one of the most wonderful things to do. This year I got to stay in the Jane Yolen cabin. Hi, Heidi. And surrounded by pictures of Jane and Jane's books, and a reminder that a career in writing and illustrating is long and changes. If there's one thing I can say to all of us, try new things. The Highlights Foundation offers so many different classes in different genres. If you've ever wanted to try a different genre, I'm always trying a different genre. You will find something that will introduce you to that kind of writing, and will introduce it to you in a great way.
Yeah. And so the unworkshop, or the personal retreat, where it's kind of come and have a cabin in the woods and do your thing, that will start in March and be available all year. And then our actual structured workshops, we're going to start in June, and we'll see what happens. You know, we'll be very flexible with our cancellation policy. We'll make sure people know in advance how far. We'll try to let people know at least 30 days in advance if we're unable to host the programs. But we're hopeful. There's hope that people will start to be able to get out, and we've got a way to keep it safe on the Highlights Foundation campus.
I think writers and illustrators, if you've never given yourself the gift of a personal retreat, put that on your list for 2021, that there's nothing more validating than giving yourself a gift of time, of beauty, and of being able to really say, I am a writer, I am an illustrator, whether you've published or not. Making that statement, investing in yourself, giving yourself that gift will give you confidence. You will find other people there who can give you confidence and support. And that is a fantastic thing. Beth, you are not the only one who likes the Lodge. I also like the Lodge, although I also love the cabins. The first time I stayed in a cabin, I was having a hard time, and Molly, the dog, dropped off a dead rabbit at my doorstep. Like she knew.
Well, we might not put that on our marketing piece, Sarah.
Okay, sorry.
So, but speaking of cabins, you mentioned staying in the Jane Yolen cabin, and Heidi Stempel came a couple of years ago and helped us put together the Jane Yolen cottage. Next week, my son and I are going to Easton for a quick road trip to pick up some books from our friend Floyd Cooper. We have the Floyd Cooper cottage ready to go. We're going to meet Floyd outside his house. He's donating 125 plus books that he's worked on through the span of his career. So when you come and stay in the Floyd Cooper cottage, you're surrounded by Floyd's artwork. You've got his entire collection of books there, and you've got that creativity to be wrapped around you. Last night, Allison and I were talking to Steve Light, and he and his wife, Christine, were on campus this summer and working on a picture book, Whispers Hollow, which he has coming out, I think, in a couple of weeks with Candlewick. And he was showing us the artwork that he did while he was on campus. And so we're going to put that in the cabin right next to Chadra's cabin. And so we're starting to develop and build kind of these themes into the cabin. So when you come, you feel that creativity and get that inspiration. Now, the fun thing to go with these named cabins that we are creating is also the scholarships that go with them. Right.
Tell us more.
Well, let's see. So we have, let me start this. I need my notes for it. So with the cabins, there's a James Cross Giblin scholarship. There's a Heidi Stempel and Jane Yolen scholarship. There's the Floyd Cooper scholarship, which is specific for illustrators of color or Indigenous illustrators. Steve Light's providing a scholarship. And we are working with Renee Watson and the I2 Arts Collective to create a Langston Hughes cottage to go with the I2 Arts Scholarship. So our scholarship program is really, it's the heart of community at the Highlights Foundation. We provide close to $100,000 a year in scholarship support for our programs. And that comes all from Highlights Foundation students, faculty, and friends. This is all donor driven of what people are giving to create this program. And it all happened because way back in the early days at the Highlights Writers Conference at Chautauqua, a person pulled Kent Brown aside and said, "This is really great. I'd like to pay for someone else to do this next year." And so from there, that scholarship program was developed and has been ongoing ever since. So in our general scholarships, we provide usually one full and one partial scholarship for pretty much every workshop. As well, we have a couple of special scholarships. I mentioned those scholarships that have a named cabin to go with them. But we have special this year. We're announcing a few of them. Patty Gouch, who's been a long time Highlights Foundation faculty. She started with us in the early days of Chautauqua. and has stuck with us. And Patty's hoping to get back to campus with us this springtime. A group of her students got together and created the commitment to building the Patty Gouch Scholarship for a novelist. Juji Morales was with us for our Dismantling the Kaleidoscope workshop this fall, and she talked about this concept of an anti-biased book bearer. And she was kind of modeling her talk on the book by Ibram Kendi, Anti-Racist Baby. And so for that program, anyone who signs up for our $10 a month ongoing donation program, the book bearer program goes right into our Essential Conversations programming. Katie Locke, a faculty friend and frequent unworkshopper, has established a scholarship for a Jewish author or illustrator of color. And PJ Library continues to create scholarships and provide scholarships for anyone working on Jewish themed programming. A couple of years ago, Grace Lynn, through her work with Kidlit Women, helped to establish the Kidlit Women Scholarship for a woman of color to attend an illustration workshop. And some of our faculty friends set up a Kidlit Pride Scholarship established specifically for LGBTQIA+ writers and illustrators to attend the Highlights Foundation workshop. And the fun thing about the Kidlit Pride Scholarship, I just saw an announcement in Publishers Weekly last week. One of the recipients had just gotten her first book contract, and I sent her a note and said, "Yeah, way to go." And she said, "Yeah, thank you. I got to work on a little bit of that at the Highlights Foundation." And so that's what it's really all about, to see that through the work of the whole community that does and participates in the scholarship program, that we're lifting each other up and making progress on our goals. Christine Taylor Butler, I see you're here. Thank you to you and Ken for created a scholarship for a person of color working on a middle grade novel or picture book project. We have the Wheeler 50+ whole novel scholarship for a novelist over the age of 50, and that was established by Gary and Susan Wheeler. So a couple of these scholarships were created by faculty, and some of them were created by our students thinking about their impact. We have a Community Connection Scholarship for an aspiring novelist. That one I love. It was established by a student who's been so positively impacted by their Highlights Foundation experience that she wanted to create a scholarship to pay it forward. And then another one we have available is our Diversify Science, which is a new scholarship for a science or nature illustrator who identifies as Black, Indigenous, or as a person of color. So in total, think about applying for a scholarship. Tell all of your friends. We will be posting on our blog kind of the listing of the scholarships. And the funny part is we don't have all of our programs up yet, but it'll all kind of come into play. So if you are thinking about a Highlights Foundation program, scholarships are a great way, a great thing to think about.
We want you to come and be part of this. Can I just brag a little bit for a second?
Sure.
So when I posted on Facebook and asked people, and Twitter, asked people if they would send me their book covers of books that had been published after working on them at Highlights, I was sort of inundated with lots of book covers and lots of people wanting to say thank you and wanting to share their enthusiasm for what we're doing here at the Highlights Foundation, that we are making it, you are making a difference. The faculty is making a difference. The scholarships are making a difference. That the community together is helping people take chances they would not have taken otherwise. Determination is so much a part of this process. It is really nice to see so many success stories.
I think about one last success story. Crystal Allen, we were on the phone the other day talking about this Brown Bookshelf program we're doing. and she was reminiscing about her trip to Chautauqua where she received a scholarship, and Kent Brown said, do something with it. And so sure enough, she's gone on to publish many, many books. And when she came back to teach on campus, she brought us some money and she said, this is a scholarship to pay back the one that you gave me and to pay it forward for the next one.
That's amazing.
And I know Crystal also does the whole novel with you. And so we're hoping that she'll be able to come back to campus with us this summer too.
There is nothing like that whole novel program. If you have a whole novel that you need feedback on, it's a wonderful experience for all of us and the faculty and for all the participants.
Did you have a screenshot of that? You said you had something about those books.
I can show you those books if you would like to see them.
Let's see it.
All right. Highlights books. So here we go. No Vacancy, which just won some lovely prizes. Zibby Cohen was part of the Get to Know Your Novel group. We have Hot British Boyfriend, Moolah La, Abraham Lincoln's Dueling Words. You can see that we have all kinds of genres and all kinds of stories being created at the Highlights Foundation. Oops.
So fun.
It's really nice to see. This is the last page. Some people were too shy to share. So, but there are more, and it was exciting to get all of these book covers from faculty and mostly from people who took classes.
Should we just roll to a couple of questions?
Let's do some questions. All right. So yes, there's going to be a diversity fellowship for 2021 for this year.
Well, there's not a new fellowship where we're doing applications for the specific diversity fellowship. We do have a couple of things happening, like the Brown Bookshelf program that we'll be talking about next month. And we also have a Muslim Storytellers program that we'll be talking about soon.
All right, so why, so something specific about what, Teresa asks, can you tell me something specific so I sign up tonight? My something specific is that if you want guidance in your writing or your illustrating, that's what you will get. If you want a community, that's what you will get. Right now, I'm finishing up a class called Get to Know Your Character. And we have had so much fun in our discussions, in our lectures, in the writing exercises. We have discovered so much about our stories. You will discover something about your stories if you come to a class. I promise you. Feel free to email me when we're done if you would like more specific than that. Will Telling It True run this summer? I was set to go last March and was hoping it would be offered again.
Inquiring minds want to know. We don't know the answer to that one yet.
Okay.
Allison is working, and maybe Allison can come on and answer this, but for the most part, we're working to figure out what our programs are going to be on campus and when they're going to launch. We know we're going to start launching in June. We know we're going to do our summer camps, and then we're trying to get the rest of the programs lined up. So that one is still unknown, but since you were signed up, you will be the first to know going forward.
Excellent. Are there needs or interest for more instructors for online or live programming? How do you become a faculty member?
Great question. And we don't have a great answer for that. We do most of our planning this year is almost a year in advance, trying to get things sorted out, but we do have space to add more programs as we can figure out how to fit them all in. So we're excited to have Alex on board and just getting started, because we do think there's an opportunity to expand more online programming. So that's, I don't have a quick, easy answer other than send us an email with your interest, and that's the way to get started.
If anybody wants to know what it's like to teach online and in person, I'm happy to have conversations about that. I like both. It's really fun. And it was exciting. Carolyn Coman was the first person to bring me to Highlights, who trusted me to be a teaching assistant. So I always pay it forward to discuss what makes a teacher. How do you know you want to be a faculty member? And if you'll enjoy it. Beth asks, is there a point when you don't want any more individual scholarship donations and would rather the money go to the general fund?
Beth, we'll take your donation any way you'd like, and we're happy to create a named scholarship in memory of somebody, in honor of somebody, or to have it go into the general fund. The only difference, I think, is that it gives you, the donor, a sense of ownership over it, and it allows us to craft a scholarship kind of specific in the way that you're thinking about that. But versus a general scholarship or a named fund, there's still supporting authors and illustrators in their pursuit of craft and story for children.
How much does financial need factor into the scholarship decision? Is it just about financial need?
So there are three criteria for thinking about scholarships. There's seriousness of purpose. So that's where your writing sample and your application shows that you're committed to this concept of writing or illustrating for children. Then there's fit with the program. And so how much of what you're looking for is a good match for that program, and then financial need. So we like to look at the three of those pieces together very much so. And we do believe that financial need is an important part of what the scholarship program is. And I should say, you know, our faculty is great because they're volunteering their time to help us screening and reviewing applications. And Sarah, you've done this a lot. It's never easy to figure out exactly how to think about the scholarship applications, because everybody has a great opportunity and great potential.
Yeah. Reading people's stories is the most humbling and exciting thing to do. Is you get a peek at people and cultures and worlds that you never imagined yourself. It's all of it is very exciting. Any advice or recommendations for workshops or resources for when you're between projects or trying to get novel ideas? I love that question. And we've been talking about that in Get to Know Your Character, and we will talk about that in Get to Know Your Novel. I think it's the hardest part of being a writer is the between, the transitioning from everything being perfect and you're fixing the sentences to that messy discovery draft and finding a new story. So we will definitely talk about that in that class. I suspect that Chris Tebbets also talks about that, since we often talk about the same things in Getting Your Novel Unstuck. Dwight wants to know if the session will be recorded. Yes, it's been recorded. Will it be on YouTube? Yes?
Yes.
Actually, you could see all the gathers on YouTube and soon my website. So please check them out. They were very inspiring this year to hear how so many writers were keeping the creative spark alive and aflame.
Yeah, and that's my hope for all of you in this new year. Just because it's a new year, the pandemic doesn't go away, racism doesn't go away, but I do hope that all of you find ways to find your creative spark and to engage in that and bring back that creativity.
That's right. That's right. It is these conversations, the essential conversations, the spontaneous conversations, they inspire us and they bring new ideas. For teachers too. The other day, consulting with a student, I figured out a problem that I was dealing with in my novel. So I was very excited about that. Any suggestions for applicants that would help them gain a scholarship? Maybe for poetry.
Well, there are a couple of poetry scholarships, the Rebecca Kai Gottlieb Scholarship, and I think we have 2 other scholarships. Allison, what's that one? So, but just apply for a scholarship, and there's no, it's all about just your application and the course that you're applying for and how many other people have applied. I don't have any other perfect advice on that one.
Yeah, I think tell us about yourself.
Yeah.
Tell us what are you trying to say in your story, and why is it important to you? And why is this event important to you?
Sarah, this has been great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can we do one more question? Because I don't want to ignore it.
Sure.
The difference between getting to know your novel and the whole novel is that in the whole novel, you read your whole novel. You get your whole novel read. If you're working with me, you get a 15-page editorial letter. And you will spend the week working on that revision and consulting with faculty about how you're proceeding with your revision. And you will leave with progress made and a plan in sight. With getting to know your novel, you're going to be doing more digging and exploring about what your novel could be and getting to know all the aspects of novel writing. Now we can close it up.
Thanks, everybody.
I do want to say, if you had questions that we didn't quite get to, we had a wonderful amount of questions in the Q&A, and I'm sure we missed some in the chat. We do have contact information on our website. We have our ambassadors program. If you're looking to find out more information about how a specific course would fit your needs. And then also just our team email addresses, our info@highlightsfoundation.org. That way you could reach out to us. Maybe you have some suggestions or questions and we can get to those. But we will be meeting once a month during our Highlights Foundation gather, and we hope that you'll join us for those gathers, ask questions and bring great ideas. Thank you to our panelists and to Jody and Mona and to Alex.
Thank
nice
you,
to see
everybody.
Everyone. It's
Have a
great
great
to see
night.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.